it is us who are the masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the people who pervert the Constitution. George Washington was very concerned when he left his presidency that as political parties started to take advantage, corruption would ensue. However, political parties may now and then answer popular ends. They are likely, in the course of time and things, to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will enable to subvert the power of the people and usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust domination. And both parties have these problems where they take the unlimited money. I mean, we have some candidates now who aren't taking the unlimited money from the big corporate institutions, and it's very promising, but really that's a practice that needs to be eradicated from government. When you have gerrymandering and other partisan actions which fix election outcomes, denying reality, misleading people, convincing them that you care about the right to life or the Second Amendment, when in reality you are just pandering to your corporate interests. We can impeach any elected officials. We have the power to. And the bar is defined in the Constitution, which is actually a really great document. And it sets the bar pretty low. All you need is evidence that the elected or otherwise appointed is failing this clause. So I think it sets the bar pretty low. It's pretty easy to impeach. I would go so far as to say a lot of these 5-4 decisions that aren't in the favor of any of these clauses, I mean, depending on the particulars of the arguments used, could actually still be grounds to impeach. But the independence of the judiciary, which is great, and the fact that they're supposed to focus on the law, they still have a constitutional duty, and if they're considering the rest of the Constitution while ignoring this clause, then I think they're probably violating their duties to the American public. So do we need another branch of government? I had often thought we needed one that would go through and delete laws, because the piles of books that get created by this process very infrequently get struck down, because someone has to actually file a lawsuit to go and clean up the messes of old laws that are either irrelevant, unconstitutional, etc. So maybe we do need another branch of government to clean up the mess. And it could be dangerous. It could be a branch that would overstep its bounds. So I don't know how exactly it would be checked, but it seems like either a branch or organization that would work through the courts to clean up the messes of laws we have. And that's really why I like to focus on the Constitution, because there's way too much other nuance of law, and a lot of it is very useful, but it is awfully complicated. At least the Constitution is relatively simple. This is pretty accurate. I think people got duped into thinking that this country would somehow be great just by having a white president undo all of the things that Obama did. But Obama did some really good things, and it's just making Trump look like a fool, violating the Constitution. It depends on what side you're on. I mean, the problem being here is loyalty. If you voted for him, you're very unlikely to doubt him. Do people vote for a candidate because that he has some similarity with themselves or who they'd like to be? The funny thing is, we've elected a debtor-in-chief. He's someone who's beholden to paying his loans, and he's essentially bankrupt. He's not even really a rich person. He has massive loans and owes more money than he has. I mean, while that is like many of us, we're all in that boat. That's not the way the country should be run. And unfortunately, it's the way it is being run. When you look at the national debt, etc. So this is just how much money the banks are making off the U.S. government over time. And it doesn't go up to modern times, but it is pretty astronomical that they can just sit there and make this much money. Granted, they did loan money, but once they're paid back, they will just be that much richer. And unfortunately, they will use that money to further try to control election outcomes. I think if we're going to have any frank political debates, we need to not take things personally. This is kind of useful. Other people's rudeness isn't about you. When someone's rude is likely often a reflection of their own issues, what they take issue with. What else comment or behavior might mean. For example, if someone doesn't smile or say hello, they might be shy. If someone doesn't like Trump, they might have a problem with the way he's running the country. Our loyalty isn't to the president or the flag, it is to the constitutional principles that make this country what it is. If this Constitution isn't upheld, then what is it that we fought for? Or what is it that we're fighting for? If we don't have our common shared ideals, then we don't have a country. Take comments or criticism in a constructive way. Ask yourself if there's any truth to it and what you can learn. Take a different perspective. Ask yourself how an unbiased outsider would see the situation. Realize that you can't please everyone. Note that you're not defined by your mistakes or criticism. Realize that your self-worth depends on you. It's not dependent on what others say about you. And you might not believe this or agree with it, but the whole concept of making America great is a war against a reality, and trying to solve it by skewing perceptions isn't addressing the underlying problem with America. Putting a wannabe rich person who isn't actually rich and is beholden to actually rich people into power isn't fixing anything. It's actually just making the very problem with this country worse.